Every supply chain runs through an MSME. The auto part on a Maruti assembly line comes from a shed in Manesar. The raw material that goes into a life-saving drug is made in a small unit in Gujarat. The garment shipping to a European retailer is stitched in Tirupur. India's 9 crore MSMEs are not on the edges of our supply chains, they are the supply chain and they're fighting on two fronts at once. There are the old challenges that were never fully solved, delayed payments and no access to working capital without a collateral. Now a new wave sits on top, CBAM, ESG and DPDP Act, compliance that didn't even exist a few years ago. They face green compliance mandate they can barely afford, and with China plus one and global shifts in the supply chain, India has to step into the gap. So are the MSME supply chains actually ready, or is the foundation still weak? Today on Movers and Makers, I'm joined by two of the most consequential policymakers working on exactly this question. Ankita Pandey, IRS Director of MSME, leading India's 6,000 crore MSME reform program and the architect of country's first AI-powered dispute resolution system for supplier payment recovery. And joining her is Ateesh Kumar Singh, Additional Secretary at DPIIT, who shaped PM Gati Shakti's logistics integration, TRED's reform, ONDC's digital commerce architecture, and now leads Startup India. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ankita and Ateesh. It's so nice to have you on this show. So let me start by asking you a very simple question. India is being positioned as, the next big supply chain hub, and with where you two sit, one at DPIIT and one at MSME, how do you think that we're actually ready for it?
We look at the India supply chain. When we see at the India supply chain, it is mostly composed of small enterprises, small businesses, which are contributing to the major part of the India's economy. So, and currently when we are saying that, they are not only having the traditional challenges of just the credit, market access, procurement, and the how to export challenges, they are also grappling with the emerging challenges, which are due to a lot of compliances imposed worldwide, and also the technology upgradation which has been done coming of AI, and more digitization, and also the sustainability and green compliances, as we call them off. So with this, yes, we need to have a hand-holding support and readiness for that, and we are committed in making our MSMEs ready for it.
So just to add to what she is saying, I feel, well, of course, all this is very, very critical to the entire supply chain economics. But the other thing which I feel is also happening on the side is that if you look at the GDP growth of India, and you would see certainly that most of it is driven by PFC, that is private final consumption expenditure, and 30% is coming from the capital formation.
Right.
But the rest is change in stocks, which is essentially trade. So, and how do we flip this? How do we get into the arena of trade-led economics? How do we get into trade-led growth? That is something we need to answer. And to fix that, of course, the government is doing what it is. It's creating a lot of infrastructure and other solutions. But I feel, we need to move towards a trade-led economics and a trade-led growth. And the time for it has come.
Ateesh, my next question is to you. PM Gati Shakti has connected literally every mode of transport, be it railways, highways, and we have logistics parks as well. But MSME suppliers are still not plugged into this infrastructure. How far are we honestly from being a credible China plus one destination?
You have to understand, Gati Shakti portal is essentially a planning tool for infrastructure. And we have 750 layers on the ministry side, and about 2,500 layers on the states, state governments and union territories layers, which are there. And about 58 to 60 ministries are on board. So while these layers are there, these are data layers, and along with them are also attributes. So while this is a system and a portal which has been created to do all kinds of planning, macro planning, micro planning, meso level planning. So while this infrastructure, this tool is available, I presently feel that this is essentially being used for doing the mega ones, and a lot of mega projects have come through on this basis, be it the dedicated freight corridors or the industrial corridors or setting up new industrial parks or multimodal parks or logistic solution hubs and so on and so forth. But I feel, what probably is missing right now is the uh, mm, uh, the development or the infrastructure planning in terms of the first mile, the middle mile, and the last mile connectivity. Our focus essentially has been, drawing end-to-end solutions, but there are a lot of things which are happening in between. So we need to connect the corridors and the industrial parks to the downstream and upstream, middle miles and last mile and first miles.
Well, I am going to definitely come and touch upon sustainability later. But before that, Ankita, I have a question for you. More than 50,000 crore is sitting in Samadhan as pending applications. The law says 45 days, but it typically takes around 90 to 120 days if for these vendors or MSMEs to get paid, if I'm not wrong. What is the problem of this delayed payment, and why do you think it's happening?
So delayed payment is, I think, one of the major pain points of small MSME suppliers, especially the micro and small ones. And when we look at it, the domain of delayed payments, होता क्या है generally small businesses are supplying mainly to the bigger vendors, bigger buyers. So there is already not a level playing field. There is already a inequality which is existing. So payment demand करने में सबसे पहले तो ये लगता है कि you will be at loss, you'll be losing your business relationship. How will you sell that person again? And आपका market में नाम भी खराब होगा कि ये जो seller है complain कर देता है. तो इसीलिए small suppliers are not able to garner payment in time. Now there are two kinds of delayed payments. One is a statutory delay, which is like 45 days, and one is when your payment is due and it is not paid to you, it is generally delayed payment. So when there are two kind of mechanisms under the entire act or the MSME structure, you would say. One is trades, of course. When the supply is done and you want immediate payment, you just put your invoice on trades and it gets discounted. The other structure is the provision provided under the MSMED Act, which says that 45 days में अगर आपका payment नहीं होता है, तो वो dispute बन गया है. Now it is dispute. Now you have to go and file your case. And and uske liye bhi, because we understand this, the commercial disputes are very sensitive matters. So going to courts and having a long gestation of cases is not an option. So there is an option of alternative dispute resolution through the use of conciliation and arbitration under the Act. And also when you talk about the 45 days payment cycle, there is also one. We need to understand that the payment cycles in various trades are different. So some trades might have early payment cycles, some trades might have it for 120 days, for 180 days. So that is also to enforce everything together. It is a very difficult task, and that is why a lot of structure has been created around this. And going back to the original question, delayed payment hota kya hai aur hota kyun, I think I have answered that. And it is very important actually to plug this because a lot of working capital of small businesses are locked now in the delayed payment issues.
So you mentioned disputes. Ministry of MSME has created this AI-powered portal for resolving these disputes, which of course you are leading. Can you tell us more about it? How can it resolve these disputes, and how is it helping the MSME industry?
So just now I have just touched in very brief that MSMED Act contains special provisions that if there is a micro and small enterprises and the payment is delayed beyond 45 days, you can go to the facilitation councils which are being established in each states, and you can file your complaint there. So when you do that, you don't have to go to actual civil courts to do that, and there will be the resolutions would be by way of conciliation and arbitration. Now Ministry of MSME has come with this online dispute resolution portal, which is what we have done. It has actually done 4 things. First, it has just digitized the entire process which was existing manually, and it has created an ease of justice through friendly negotiations. Now I just mentioned then the most important fear MSME seller has is that mera naam kharab hoga. So what he can do is that through the use of this portal, there is a pre-MSCFC cycle which is being created, through which the use of AI, there are two stages of digitally guided pathway and unmanned negotiation, where seller and buyer can talk to each other. बातचीत करके, समझौता करके जो resolution निकालना होता है, वो निकाल सकते हैं through the use of this platform without any blemish of any kind that the case has been registered in against that buyer. So and we are seeing that, we are observing that more than 1200 cases are being, more than 2000 cases have been resolved through the use of this particular friendly negotiation. And the second thing it is doing is that, because it is like online, seamless, end-to-end justice. So we are looking also at that the statutory timelines of conciliation and arbitration are easier to adhere to, because when you send notice, when you call people for hearing, so there is no bar. And it is creating a level playing field for all the MSMEs. The supplier sitting in Bangalore can be at as much as has easy access, but a supplier sitting in Namsai, Arunachal Pradesh, or a supplier sitting in Bastar, Chhattisgarh, is also having equal ease to actually access that portal and file the case and get resolution. So there is a level playing field which is created. Now, since everything is being tracked and transparent and monitored, we are also, the Ministry of MSME is also in a better position to actually track the cases which are being filed, in the traceability of the cases.
You mentioned timelines. How, like, typically, how long does it take for a case to, get solved? Like, is there a timeline to every case that you put?
So, as per the Act, the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, there are statutory timelines of 90 days. However, because it is, the timelines start, kick in, and they end after the referral of the case, and so there are the gaps are not defined. So time is taking there, but the statutory timeline is 90 days.
Okay, all right.
But, ma'am, you would like to mention how it is, this ODR portal, what it's done, this is one of the magical thing which has happened. Cases which have been hanging fire for 4 years, 5 years, they've got resolved in 4 hours.
So
one case.
I was telling sir that one supplier filed the case, and within 2 hours, the matter was accepted by the buyer. He said that, okay, I am ready to give the payment in the unmanned negotiation stage, and the payment was made actually. So within 48 hours, the entire case filing and resolution was seamlessly done, and the seller was having the payment. And similarly, we are having so many tested cases where the timeline is as low as 2 hours, 4 hours, 24 hours.
That's incredible.
That's actually magic.
Yeah. So, Ateesh sir, TREADS has solved part of the payment problem, but there is a simpler model where large buyers themselves pay MSME suppliers early from their own cash, and without waiting for a bank or any financier in between. Is the government pushing for it? Is the government supporting this?
Yes, ma'am. So just like ma'am said, about the TREADS portal itself has this facility which has been announced last year. Now, TREADS, essentially, everybody used to think it's a factoring phenomenon, and it is. If you go into the TREADS arena, you'll have to necessarily get yourself financed. Your invoices have to be financed. Now, in the last budget, if you notice, it has been made either non-financing pass-through mechanism as well. So you can make your payments through TREADS without getting your invoices discounted or financed. That's one part. And the second part also is that they've also created a mechanism where the settlement can be done through NACG mechanism. That's also something which has been incorporated into the TREADS portfolio. That's one part of, that's just talking about TREADS, since just like ma'am was saying. But like you said, there are already other corporates and other business houses which deal with their vendors and MSME suppliers through their own created mechanisms, systems and institutions, which some of them call this dynamic discounting, or somebody calls it by another name. So while all that is fine, and they've invested in that, and so therefore they would like to do that, and similarly the vendors are also kind of settled into that. That's all great. So all systems can exist. The banks also have another discounting system. The idea is that to unlock liquidity, if it can be done through TREADS, if it can be done through the banks and departmental bill discounting, if it can be done through their own dynamic discounting, let everybody play around. Let the best system provide the solutions.
Right. So we've already touched upon sustainability, and now my question to you, Ankita, is that MSMEs are already running on very tight margins, and with EU CBAM already hitting the exporters, how are you convincing MSMEs to adapt to it?
My take on this is that actually MSMEs should not be convinced to adopt something. It should actually, they should be shown that how it is beneficial to them, what is in it for them.
Yeah.
Then only they will adopt
Right.
it. So the most important thing for MSMEs is that what is the cost involved when they are switching to greener or sustainable models. Though the Ministry of MSME is having programs for interest subsidy and capital subsidy for green financing, but the important thing is not just subsidizing these things. The important thing is to making them see and understand that what is the saving they will be making. This investment is leading to a long-term revenue for them. So there are various attempts which are being held by various state governments under ramp model, which they are doing energy and water audits, and they are actually, after the audit, they are showing to the companies, if you shift this particular machine to a different kind of machine, that this is the amount of saving which you will have, and this is the amount of revenue which you will make in next 10 years. So a lot of sellers are changing it because they themselves know that it is helping them change. So the most important thing is that to make them understand that these are not just the compliances. This is to better their own resources, to increase their efficiency and competitiveness in market, because if they want to access the export market, this is the need of the hour. So that is the case.
And how readily acceptable is the industry? How are they accepting it?
So yes, there is a challenge in it, because just as I said, the upfront cost for shifting to green technology is more. So the need of the hour is to look at from the cluster model. Can we create some common facilities? Can we have some ESCO or RESCO kind of models where upfront cost is being taken care, and a long-term solution is being developed for them.
Can I just add,
Sure,
absolutely, very, very, that's exactly she's hit the nail on the head. MSME on its own will, probably not venture in because the cost is high. But in a cluster model, maybe it's possible. And like also she said, she talked about the cost, So what is in it for him? Like she said. He is driven by profit. And profit is a function of expenditure and revenue.
Yeah.
So either whatever the green thing does, it should either reduce the expenditure or increase the revenue. If that happens, he is definitely coming.
Yeah.
And you also must read everything everything with the current situation, because the West Asia crisis, energy cost is central.
Right.
Everybody is looking at sustainability.
Ankita, let's talk about RAMP now. So RAMP has made women-owned MSMEs a priority across all of its programs. Where is it actually making a difference on the ground, and where do you think it will take some more time?
This is a very important and a question which is very close to my heart. So when we look around RAMP, what RAMP did exactly is to make the subject of small businesses, MSMEs, centered to each state. And when we look at the women entrepreneurs, there is a lot of areas where specific provisions have been provided, in particularly in the state's own SIPs, where they are changing their own MSME ecosystem. They have provided special provisions for women. So one area which we have seen a big change is that the area of formalization. We have seen that the unorganized sector, especially the self-help groups, they are being actually formalized and turned to them registered enterprises, and which makes them eligible for all other facilities. For example, to begin with the credit and the other schemes of the government, which can be accessed by them. The second area which we are looking at is that a lot of women enterprises have the product. They are making the products, but they don't know how to package them and how to sell them to the market.
Right.
So what RAMP is providing is they're providing them sectoral training in packaging. and how to market your product, and there is also a team scheme which is onboarding 50% of women entrepreneur under the scheme provisions are to be entrepreneurs are to be from women, females. So they are being onboarded on ONDC platform, and that is providing them easy access to the national market. And area where it is not working, again I would say that all the efforts, while we are doing efforts in every pillar, whether they be credit, market access, or technology upgradation. For example, under Z there is 100% free certification provision for women entrepreneurs. But what women entrepreneurs need is kind of life cycle approach. Like once she is formalized, somebody should be there to mentor and handhold. Then these are the credit requirements for you, and then handhold them to the next step of market access. Then handhold them to the technology. Then maybe scale up to get the private equity. But that cannot happen if you are not able to track the women entrepreneurs' journey.
Right.
End to end.
Right.
So I think while there are so many efforts being made, but we'll have to have a life cycle effort and whole of government approach towards the problem of women entrepreneurs, because the dropouts are more than what we are coming inside the system.
Right. While Ankita briefly touched upon ONDC, you've contributed to ONDC for quite a long time. So ONDC was supposed to be a platform, of digital commerce for MSMEs that gives them access without being dependent on any single platform. And now that we are 4 years into it, are sellers genuinely better off, or have the challenges just shifted from one place to the other?
Yeah, so just like ma'am was saying, for the MSME specifically, she came up with a scheme called Trade Enablement Marketing, which is the team scheme, which is designed specifically for the purposes of onboarding and helping the MSME ecosystem to get on and latch on to the e-commerce bogie. And it offered, it had great offerings. It is still running, and it's 50% of the offtake is only for women entrepreneurs. It offers solutions through e-cataloging, free e-cataloging, and free order management, or subsidized order management, and it offers you transport subsidy and packaging subsidy. So that is an offering for specifically designed for the MSME ecosystem. And also there are other offerings of different ministries which have also onboarded the the ONDC, like the ODOP, One District One Product program, or the Ministry of Tribal Affairs have come on board. Then Ministry of Textiles has several engagements. Then NABARD and NAFED, they also come on board. So while there are different parts of the MSME ecosystem who are there on the ONDC to find better emplacement into the e-market phenomenon. But while having said that, you are right. The ONDC probably hasn't been able to get into the big league, as it were. It's not in the league of Amazons or the Flipkarts of the world. But what you need to understand also is that it wasn't trying to compete with them.
The vision was not that.
It wasn't that. It was supposed to be an open platform, and everybody was supposed to come on board and use it. It's like the UPI of e-markets.
Yeah.
But and so while some of them have, but many of them still haven't. That is one part. So with having said that, what ONDC is now trying to do, and having come to realization with the ground realities, and also you have to understand e-commerce is a very fast moving place, and it has a lot of moving parts.
Right.
Every day something is happening. Quick commerce, nobody realizes it's a very big thing today. The world is gawking at us like, how is quick commerce operating over here, and it's everybody wants to join that bogie. And quick commerce itself is it's going through so much change. There's so much change every day. I'm telling there's so much automation, there is so much of sensors, there's so much of digitalization, so much of AI which is being used to bring in quick commerce. Reverse logistics is another certain big thing. Gig economy is just suddenly zoomed into the orbit, and so a lot of things are happening over here. So what ONDC is now doing is try to reorient itself to the changing environment. Instead of getting into direct competition with Amazons, it has moved into technology.
Right.
It is providing a lot of tech solutions for e-commerce, because like I said, everything is changing very fast. So
Right.
what ONDC is now doing is getting into tech support, and it's also getting into things like, absolutely niche things like sachet finance. Can you believe it? It is the only place where you can get into an SIP for as low as 100 rupees.
Wow.
You can do an SIP of 100 rupees. So it's moving into that kind of thing. So also it is all, you might have heard it has started something called the Digi Dukan.
Uh-huh.
It has also started Digi Heart. Okay, it has also started Amazing India. So these are things which ONDC is now trying to figure. And if you look at the shareholding pattern, a lot of new shareholders have come through, including Google and Uber, and a lot of global players have joined this. So I think like when it started, everybody was skeptical how this is going to work out. But then as one person who was part of the central decision making kind of said that this is a breakthrough idea, and we need to go with breakthrough ideas if you want to move forward in progression of India.
Right.
And so I hope we're going to get there very soon.
So, Ateesh, this brings me to my next question. Like, we always have some or the other challenge in every field, especially in MSMEs. Like, you try to solve one problem, another challenge crops up. So, how do you cope up with these, newer challenges that come your way? Let's talk. Let's talk about DPDP Act here, or EU CBAM. How do you cope up with these newer challenges that come in the industry?
So you want to answer that? Then
okay. So ma'am, these things are this was as if it wasn't as if it just suddenly happened. It was it was known.
Yes.
CBAM was announced 3 years back, and everybody knew that on the 1st January 2026 CBAM will come into operation. Okay. Similarly for DPDP Act, it had been worked upon for a while, and now it got finally got through, and now it has been notified. A 1 year moratorium is there. It will be notified. It has been notified. It will come into force after 1 year. So it's not as if it's just suddenly erupted and it's come onto our head. So there is a time frame to get into that space and figure out how do we get into this. So if you look at start with DPDP Act, what does it say? We need to find ways to make sure that the consent is absolute and expressly done, and not just with respect to the prospective things we do, but also retrospectively. It is incumbent upon the industry or anybody for that matter who has taken consent that what it entails, what it means, what it means that since you've given your consent, it means that your data can be used to be given to a third party who can do all that with your so this has to be explained to him. So this, according to one study, it came out that in this itself has added about 20 to 30% to the tech cost of an industry. So now this is something we have to do. We have to find ways to look at consent management, because this is just going out of hand.
Right.
And so obviously there will be a cost to it, but we have to fix this. We have to make sure that people are not frauded or befooled by things. We have to have a system in place. So while this is a system, and there'll be more coming, it's not as if it is stopped.
Right.
The way artificial intelligence is progressing, the way agentic AI is moving at such a frenetic pace, it's not stopping any time now. I think the best way to deal with is to accept it and find ways to deal with it.
I would like to add here
Sure.
that it is not for nothing that it is said that every challenge is an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So when new emerging challenges came up, for example, if we talk about AI adoption and if we talk about CBAM, it came up with an opportunity of solving the earlier problems which were existing with the help of some fintech.
Right.
So AI came with a lot of benefits, but there is a challenge of adopting to the needs of adopting AI and how small businesses are going to do it. But when you see it, you will realize that sometimes small businesses are better adopting to AI because in absence of any earlier existence structure, they're better adopting to AI. So that challenge has actually resolved. For example, we are using AI for friendly negotiations in ODR portal. So some of the challenges are also solving the traditional challenges. And this DPDP Act, maybe it will build a robust data structure which can be used for policy making later on without any worry about the data protection, data leakage. So with that, I think we'll have to see the holistic picture when we see the traditional challenges, emerging challenges, and how to get around them.
So
Great.
just to add to what she's saying, I totally agree with what she's saying, that it throws up it opens up new windows and new doors.
Absolutely, yes.
And so just look at what's happened now. We've just another thing has come into play called mythos. Nobody ever thought that this is there's something like this.
Right.
Now mythos is a system which can throw open or show and open all your vulnerabilities in a matter of seconds and and hours.
Right.
And if anybody else is able to latch onto it, it'll destroy every system. It's very, very dangerous.
Right.
The electricity system, electricity grid of India, the freight operations of Indian Railways, or the air traffic control of the banking system. If anybody catches hold of or makes another mythos, it's not as if mythos has Claude has made a mythos. Others who are also in this space are also working to create something like that.
Right.
And also the other, who are not the institutional part, the dark side of the net is also working on this. So this is a disruption nobody thought it will come, or here we are. So we have to learn with that, we have to live with that, we have to understand that, we have to accept this, and we have to find ways to find resolution. You can't run away from it.
Right, absolutely. And I really like that example of mythos that you plugged in there. Ankita, one question for you on supply chains. If there was any structural change that you would want to bring to the supply chain of MSME, what would that be?
Yes, so this is a very beautiful question. Can I not answer it in one structural change? I can tell you that supply chain right now we have to have a holistic, integrated approach to the supply chain. The MSME suppliers right now, maybe though they are connecting to a lot of vendors, but they need to be made aware that what are the sectoral supply chain which are existing for them. So a lot of people are manufacturing one item, they may be supplying to one vendor, but that particular item can also be supplied to another vendor. So the understanding of the sectoral supply chain, and that has to be figured out. And then the next part is actually to create a quality culture in the MSME supplier. So unless and until they adhere to certain quality certifications, they make some basic quality products, they cannot be integrated to a supply chain. So it is a common responsibility of both the government and the private person to actually make them understand that how valuable it is to have a quality culture. And third thing which is very important here is that to have a common approach, a cluster approach to the supply chains. So if we cannot just make one MSME supplier central to this point, unless we have a sector working, so we can have common training facilities for them. We can have common centers for them. So it is very important to work on the cluster approach when we look at developing the supply chains.
Ateesh, you are leading Startup India and MSME at DPIIT. I want to understand from you, how are the Indian startups supporting MSME and resolving their problems? Or are we still working on bringing about some innovations on that front?
On supply chain front?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are about 2.3 lakh startups which have got recognized by DPIIT, and so lot of solutions which the startups are offering are either in terms of aggregation, process improvement, or let's say things like developing products which are just simply re-innovation or re-engineering or reverse engineering of sorts to find those kind of products both in the service sector and the manufacturing sector. And so there are several who are working in the logistics side of the whole thing, and they are trying to bring in improvements with respect to bettering the logistics efficiency. Okay, how can we have reduced logistics costs? How can transportation and all things around transportation, be it handling, be it documentation, be it taxation, be it finance, or be it government procedures, how can that become more seamless and frictionless? And how can we remove the weeds from that, or the roadblocks from that flow of logistics efficiency, or also at the same time you know, create a lot of tools using the help of artificial intelligence, which a lot of them are doing incidentally. Many of them have come up with things which are known as transport management systems or logistic management systems. Some of them are working on fintech solutions to provide faster credit and cheaper credit or timely credit to logistics suppliers. Some of them are creating elements of sustainability into the logistics arena. So there are it's not as if it's limited to one or two. There are hundreds of things which are happening on the logistics side, and a lot of startups are working in each of them. I know that. I don't have the numbers right now, but I know for sure that logistics efficiency is certainly big into the startup ecosystem.
Right. My one final question to both of you. We often talk about, large enterprises supporting MSMEs. So what is that one thing, according to you, that you feel these large enterprises should do to support the MSME supply chains? Do you want to go first?
I think briefly touched that it is also the responsibility of large enterprises to develop the quality culture in vendors. So when we talk about MSME sector, it cannot be actually strengthened just from the government side. Actually, the entire industrial landscape is responsible for it, and that includes the large companies, the anchor buyers, the big vendors for which these MSMEs are a part of supply chain. So if they want to be sustainable, if they want to have look good, they want to have good quality, they cannot claim it unless and until the entire chain is doing it. So it is actually their responsibility. The small suppliers are a part of their family. So it's a part of the familial responsibility to make them aware of the quality culture, to make them aware what can they do to be at the better footing if they are a part of their quality culture, so that they can also inspire the fellow seller who are not a part of that vendor system.
Right.
And so that is kind of that kind of belongingness is required within the industry, that will create the inspiration for the other small entrepreneurs who maybe are not a part of that supply chain, and also inspire them.
Any industry that you can think of is already doing that?
A lot of industries are doing a lot of efforts. I think I don't know whether I should name any particular industry, but I have seen a lot of major companies are doing this, but more consistent efforts towards that side. Institutionalized efforts are needed towards it.
Right, right. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in two parts. First, I like to just fortify what she said, and she said very rightly. It's like a family,
Yeah.
and you're part of the whole game. So if the MSME does well, who's your supplier, who's part of a supply chain, so will you.
Right.
If you do not mentor him, if you do not handhold him, if you do not support him, you are the one who's ultimately going to suffer. If you do not ensure that the quality which you need, we talk about sectors, let's say steel, let's say auto components. If your component supplier does not give you the right quality, it's your vehicle who's going to get messed up. Your market will dwindle. Your product will not be good. It's incumbent upon you to help your MSME supplier and supplier, component supplier or vendor, and so on and so forth. Same goes for we talked about dynamic discounting. They've created dynamic discounting for MSMEs only for their own suppliers, to help them, to make them comfortable, to get them payments in time. Okay, and similarly, also I feel that not only do they help in the quality part and the technology part and mentoring and handholding part. She touched upon it, capacity building. Lot of large corporates have in-house captive training programs.
Yes.
In fact, in Tamil Nadu, as an example which is called as in factory skill development program or something like that. Okay, so this is just one example. There are several of them like that. MSME ministry itself has various technology centers where the private corporates have set up their small units for captive training. Like Samsung has set up a small vertical inside a technology center for their own products. So there are engagements like that all across the country. Several examples are there. So it is, I feel that if the MSME ecosystem grows, the MSME supply system grows, the MSME ancillary unit grows, the large corporate is bound to grow, and it is it is incumbent upon him to understand and realize that. That's one part. Second, I want to bring it to the startup part. So how the startup ecosystem is helping the large corporate and vice versa.
Right.
So we have created a program in wherein we've partnered with 80 plus large corporate houses, and we've gone into an arrangement with them, and we asked them to put forth their problem statements, and then we pitch those problem statements to the startups, because startups are very tech savvy,
Right.
and they are very, very innovative, in thought and understanding, and so they come up with innovative solutions. Not only fix the problem, find cheaper and faster ways to find resolution. I'll tell you one example of that. I went recently to Kalinga Nagar, where Tata has set up a big steel factory, and they have the largest blast furnace in India. And so they were grappling with the problem in the blast furnace or in other instruments, where they had to use humans to deal with certain part of the machinery, but a lot of people were either getting hurt or they were dealing with fire, and some of them even had other terrible accidents. So they caught hold of the startups and they told them to find some help us over there. And within 1 month, I don't know, maybe more, they came up with a robotics arm, and they this thing is completely, there's no human element involved over there. There is no accident. There's no question of an accident, and there is nobody. It is a much more safer working environment.
Right.
So that's how it's also playing out.
Right. So startups are doing some great work out there, and of course MSMEs are out there to help the bigger organizations. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely conversation with both of you.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure is all ours. Thank you.
Thank you.